And actually, I just wanted to start off with this diagram to emphasize that the GIA project has been a collective effort of UF extended team. And so this diagram shows on the outside ring, the dark blue circles, are different working groups within the GIA project that we carried out over the 3-year lifetime of the project. And inside those blue, dark blue circles are a whole series of graduate students, faculty, and coordinators, and postdocs. Different colors represent. The green are the faculty members. Andrea and I are the coordinators. We have various postdocs and graduate students who are all in different disciplines, but many of them are from the Amazon region, and that is a special aspect of our project. And I think that we'll talk later about what all these different working groups were, et cetera. But I think the important thing that we were able to accomplish when we have very interesting results in terms of products and in terms of articulating partnerships is because we had the opportunity to work together intensively in this program. So TCD has always done interacting with partners and applied research. We've had some group efforts like the MERGE project and the Working Forest in the Tropics IGERT, but this is really the first time where we had this intense interaction and collaboration among a group of students, and through them working with partners from throughout the region of the Amazon. So I just wanted to start with kind of contextualizing that. And the project was developed over the last 3 years to promote improved governance of infrastructure, which is a major threat for deforestation and a threat to the people who are living in communities in the Amazon. So this diagram shows the conceptual framework that we have for business as usual, how infrastructure governance normally happens. And we have in the upper left a iron triangle of banks, companies, politicians who have a lot of economic and political power, and they react with elites and other citizens, voters. They have influence over ministries and agencies who implement and plan and implement infrastructure projects. And there are several things related to power that these organizations do that they get their way, and they have huge impacts, social, economic, and environmental. And there are also social and environmental issues, but they're kind of off to the side here with dashed arrows because generally they tend to be marginalized. And our whole goal here is to increase their impact, their satisfaction with results, and ultimately based on increasing their power to interfere or participate in these processes. Okay, so I wanted to just kind of give a quick overview of our project by sharing I'm going to share something else here now. A graphic analysis of the GIA network that, and I should mention, a lot of the participants, the faculty like Betty, Andrea and myself as the coordinators, and the grad students are on this call right now, which is nice. So Pamela is one of those grad students, and I just wanted to share a quick analysis that we did, how the GIA project developed starting in 2018. We started by working in 4 different regions of the Amazon and interviewing and inviting to engage with us a core group of partners. We started mostly with NGO partners. So in these network diagrams, the regions are indicated by red. So within the Amazon, we identified not only 4 countries, but 4 specific regions. So the Upper Madeira on the border of Brazil and Bolivia, Loreto in Peru, Southern Amazonas and Northern Rondônia in Brazil, and Paquetá, Putumayo, the Piedemonte of the Colombian Amazon. And these are the organizations that we reached out to initially. The circles are NGOs, and the colors indicate what country they're from. So Colombian NGOs, Brazilian NGOs, Peruvian NGOs. In Upper Madeira, Bolivia, we had and actually this is mislabeled. Pamela, you need to fix this. In the Upper Madeira, we have a more diverse group, perhaps because of our great partner, Marlise, who is from the region, our grad student, perhaps because we have a longer series of dialogues developing Amazon Dam Network. But this was kind of the first phase of the project. And then we had a workshop in each region. And based on the initial context, we amplified the set of partners that we engaged with in a 2 or 3 day workshop in each region. And based on that, we carried out a series of case studies from 55 of these partners about how they approached infrastructure governance, how effective they were, what strategies that they used. Okay, so I'm going to go back now to my other slide. Sorry. One moment, please. Okay. I'm lost now. I'm so sorry. Well, okay. I think I'm in the right place now. Okay, so I just showed you the process we went through with a series of partners. We came up with 55 case studies after that initial year of the project. And we did an analysis of those cases and produced a report. All of our products are in 3 languages, Spanish, Portuguese, and English. So I'm showing you the Spanish version of this preliminary evaluation we did of the strategies that these organizations use to influence infrastructure governance. And we had a large number of authors, which are our faculty, that kind of led this process, but all of the grad students were collaborators in this, and this is something that was co-constructed, also with some of our key partners from the region. And the main finding that we had from this preliminary assessment, and which was then validated throughout the project, and so we can use this as kind of the final result of the project, even though it emerged initially from this preliminary assessment, then we worked on it over time. But what we found was that the most effective strategies that organizations did were awareness raising, political mobilization, legal and policy frameworks, and law enforcement related activities. And all of these things come together under the umbrella of political mobilization and negotiation strategies. And there were kind of support strategies that were also important. These were the most effective strategies, but they were often related to capacity building, education and training, research and monitoring. So research may not have been on its own a key strategy, but it was part of these broader political mobilization and negotiation strategies. So that was a key finding that we validated throughout this project. And the other thing that we learned was that the highly effective cases were highly likely to be led by grassroots organizations. So of the total cases, 18% were led by grassroots organizations, but of the most effective ones, 50% were led by grassroots organizations. So that has been a focus of our work since then as well. Okay. All right, I'm gonna pass it on to Andrea. And basically we've been, if I go back, we've been working on all of those strategies, political mobilization related to knowledge generation, communications, capacity building. And we've had working groups and advanced our agenda in all of those strategies. So Andrea has led the development of a working group on communication strategies. And so she's going to talk a little bit about the findings of that group over the 2 years that's been mobilized, and then what that offers us in terms of forward-looking opportunities. So thanks, Andrea.
Okay, thank you, Bob. I just want to make sure that you can see my whole screen.
We see the slide projector, the presenter mode with the next slide.
Okay, because I want to be in, no. Do you see now the presenter mode?
Yes.
We can switch slide now.
Okay, perfect. That's exactly what I wanted to have. Okay, so I will give you a summary of GIA's working group, specifically the Communication for Political Impact, who started to work on a better understanding of effective communication strategies that have the potential to influence and mobilize as well some political process at the decision-making level, okay? And for this new phase, since GI is ending, or we kind of propose a continuation of the working group, and as well a kind of like a new denomination or of a nested or even a standalone community of practice of learning for communication and impact, which I'm calling it here kind of like COP-LCI. But first of all, let me give you a brief summary of this group's accomplishments first, before we can kind of like talk and reflect on what a new phase would be. Okay, so we first started with a rapid analysis of 14 innovative cases or experiences developed by partner institutions in GIA's 4 mosaics, which are in Peru, Alto Madera in Bolivia, the Brazil, southern Amazonas and northern Rondonia, and in Colombia, Piedmont of Colombia. And they were developed by our partner institutions, and you can see them here in the upper left side, where we list the institutions as well by the mosaics, right? And innovative cases in this case are defined by kind of like creative productions of events, as you can see here, for example, on the right side, productions of podcasts, radio programs, debates, trainings that would invoke or trigger some kind of like action, okay? So we collected information via interviews, kind of like these rapid assessments on the strategy's target audiences. You can see here in the middle as well what we collected. It's in Spanish, the specific activities related to the strategy, methods used, the motivation for implementing the strategy, and as well if they're faced any challenges, and or what were the strength of the strategies as well, and what type of member composition the institution had for implementing the strategies as well, and what the impacts were specifically associated with each of the strategies. And later as well, we further collected information through online dialogues, which you see all kind of like they were listed here. We had kind of like 3 small dialogues or conversatorios or bate-popos, 1 bigger Pan-Amazon event focused on results of the studies, and then finally a panel of on knowledge and communication for political impact. And this was during GIA's and final 3-day closing workshop at the end of May, right? And according to the participants' feedback, the dialogues that we started in and we developed in this year and at the end of last year, provided a very valuable and neutral space for them to reflect and learn as well, that most of the participants who were, for the most part, communicators did not previously had, okay? So they mentioned as well that it provided an internal, critical self-reflection on the effectiveness of the strategies that they were implementing, and as well a guiding process for a collective kind of like interpretation of the meaning of effectiveness and impact of their own strategies, right? So participants, they really appreciated as well a close contact with the grassroots organizations. But let's kind of like, I want to give you like a little bit of an overview, a very brief overview of the results. And so we did categorize the results according to the level of impact, which we based on the social and behavioral communication change theory, which I'm not going to go through now. But we synthesized 5 major categories. You can see them as well on your right side. They were usually mutually inclusive. So, and they are here kind of like a capacity building, which were mostly strategies based on training of communication leaders or spokespersons. Then we have knowledge generation as well, which had a strong focus on human rights and as well indigenous perspectives. Then we have strategic alliances, a key role of academia here, and as well the interaction with local actors and grassroots movements, and as well trust building mechanisms. And then we have the citizen participation, the role of observatories, citizen science, monitoring, oversight. And at the end, we have the articulation action, which is basically kind of like the hearing local voices and perspectives and understanding them as well and putting them out and really from the bottom up through campaigns and mobilizations, right? So finally, I'm not gonna go through all, I'm gonna go back because I'm not gonna go through all the great examples which are actually listed here in these boxes, but I think there were some very good examples, just to name a few. For example, we had SPDA, which is the Peruvian Society for Environmental Law. They engage live stream with technological specialists who provided knowledge and a new vision to decision makers. At the same time, they created kind of like this innovative space for the promotion of commitments. So they really try to help the commitments and the participants in those sessions or SPDA sessions and accountable for what they were saying that they would commit to. And so this is kind of like a way of really invoking some kind of change. And then we have as well strategies of spokespersons held in alliances and scenarios held by UNITAS in Bolivia. Then we have the strategy of the social educational mobilization strategy from the grassroots organization OCMA, which is an organization for the Amazonian women, a communal organization for Amazonian women, that they were working through their slogan, no to the dams and yes to the life, to really kind of like make them aware for their really conservation of their livelihoods, and as well really resistance against the building of the dams. And we have as well the observatory, infrastructure observatory, and repository for collection, the BR 319, which is a collective actions of several institutions in Brazil. But I don't want to go through. We have like really produced very nice products here that you can see. You can check them out, where you can find really very nice products that the group finalized. Like we have infographics, a final report, and ArcGIS story map as well, produced by Vanessa, who is here as participants. So, but this is kind of like our accomplishments. This is what we did. But let's think a way forward. We have really gained a momentum, a great momentum of enthusiasms among the participants about this community of practice that we created from communicators. They mentioned a desire to continue working together. They mentioned the value added to rely upon a network of peer specialists and as well CUF, Neutra's role as a moderator, and very, very beneficial. And so this is kind of like what we propose as way forward, what we would like to do. So we really would like to continue this collaboration and to foster collaboration, right, in a sense of community with diverse stakeholders that share the same values and identity and techniques for empowerment, and here especially kind of like the connection with the grassroots movements, and especially as well that they are willing to kind of like to foster some type of change, right? We want that's why we want to elevate kind of like the role of communications. As you see here, for example, and to the right, I modified a little bit the conceptual framework that Bob just presented to really kind of like put the role of communication strategies out there as a change maker for invoking change on the decision-making table. So this is kind of like where we really would like to work towards, right? And of course, we want to propose to adapt and test and timely implement innovative conservation strategies to new contexts. Are they being adapted? Are they being able, what is working effectively in Colombia? Can that be adapted, for example, in Peru or in Bolivia? And as well, instrumentalize the degree of measurement of innovation and success of the existing effective strategy. And co-produce as well and transfer knowledge within local communities and grassroots, which was something kind of like very strong of the group that we would like to continue doing as well, right? And expand the nexus with academia. And here I'm really kind of like talking about the really capital of UFTCD, right? Who would adopt a new strategic role and direction, regarding conservation strategies and the use of science. That's how I see the use of science, of people and their behavior to inspire and enable change, right? So we kind of propose to use social behavior science approaches and as well participatory action research, and as well the theory of change and some kind of scientific inquiry, and together to think about more of the role of communication strategies. And why? Because we really think that solving environmental challenges means that somebody is going to have to do something differently, right? Systemic changes comes really with culture shifts, and we proposed to use kind of like these innovative communication strategies used by partners and expand them as well to really accelerate these culture shifts and transform awareness into action at the decision making level. So this is really our kind of like our sense of proposal that we would like to do. And yes, we believe that there is value added in continuing a community of practice. We believe that we need to translate more into practice and leverage the best behavioral insights that will drive decision-making. We think that there are opportunities to be created for social learning, for encouraging public commitments and making behaviors seen and making desirable behaviors easier for by purposefully structure the context, timing, and options for a call to action. So by these effective communication strategies, right? So can we think then in terms of communication strategies is a strategic niche for us here, this community of UF, TCD, and Latin American Center? And what is our call to action, like to show really the relevance of communication in achieving transformative changes? I think that's kind of like the message that I'm putting out here. How can we develop like a new capacity and programmatic directions for our TCD community and become a new network of change makers and especially working to scale social movements? And so I'm leaving up. I would love to have your reflection on this. And of course, I didn't do this alone. There were like a lot of co-producers and co-thinkers and co-brains with me. So I just wanted to acknowledge them. But I think I'm done now, and I'm giving it back to you.
Thank you, Andrea. And so I'm going to kind of zoom back out to think a little bit more broadly about next steps. So I'm going to argue that we have achieved a proof of concept. Okay, and I'm going to argue that the key elements of what we have been able to demonstrate and which we can build on as we move forward is the using theory of change. This is the theory of change for our impact, and it's based on using theory of change as a way of having reflection and analysis with a focus on results and measuring results. So when we're talking about our strategies with partners, we have to think about what the goal is. As Andrea was talking about, we want to influence and change behavior and decisions. So we have to analyze if what we're doing is taking us there, okay? The integrated network, and I'm going to talk more about that, with the grassroots organizations, the NGOs, and partner universities within these focal regions and across the regions. And the key element of that network, which I started off by showing, was the students, many of them from the Amazon region at UF. And I believe that we need to continue and have a new cohort of students that are similar in structure and composition, also including postdocs. And that may allow opportunity for continuity of some of the students who have made all of this possible so far, but also complementing that with a cohort of students and faculty from Amazonian universities. So that's a way we can scale up. If every student here is collaborating with 2 or 3 students from a partner university and forming a mini academic group, we can then scale up our impact. And I think we have the foundation for that in place. And then the approach that we've taken has been action-oriented, addressing partners' needs, especially the grassroots organizations. And we have learned some specific lessons about how to work with partners. Particularly, these apply to knowledge management and research, community engagement from the definition of research topics, all the way to data gathering and analysis, recognizing and respecting grassroots ontologies, epistemologies, timing, and knowledge, and their autonomy and co-ownership of research products. So these are things that we've demonstrated, that we've heard back from them, that this is the way that these organizations want knowledge co-generation. So it's what we've learned, but also what we've heard. And having a theory of change, a strategy for impact based on knowledge, communications of that knowledge, and collaboration across this network. So I would say that's what we have demonstrated works and can build on. Okay, and our project, we didn't go into all the step-by-step of our project, but we had a series of we worked in these regions and on these topics, like Andrea talked about communications, also in these other countries. And at the end, April, May, we had a cross-region, we had 3 cross-region events followed by a 3-day cross-regional workshop. So there were 6 moments when we got together to synthesize our findings and think about what our partners want to do with us, and continuing these regional networks. The Upper Madeira has a specific focus on community-led, integrating NGOs and universities to produce knowledge with an effective communication strategy. Kind of the whole package was demonstrated there in the Upper Madeira group. So as I said from the beginning, when we started, we had perhaps a more mature, integrated group in the Upper Madeira, and we had a very effective implementation there. And so continue that. Brazil had a focus on legal approaches. Colombia had a focus on indigenous leadership. We have groups in each of these countries as well, integrating NGOs, universities, and community organizations leading these processes. And finally, across regions, this looking at innovative approaches to communications that influence political behavior and motivation. And so having these clusters and then a pan-Amazon network to integrate what we're learning. And expanding, not only continuing what we've been doing, but expanding to a broader set of actors like businesses, church, etc. We've focused so far on being allies with like-minded people, but broader engagement can be on the agenda for this group. Not only the communication strategies that Andrea has presented, but specifically including artistic expression as a tool for communications and incorporating in-country students into the mix with the cohort of UF students. So those are kind of next steps. And so one of the key things we've learned about how this project was able to be achieved was by having this UF team. So the cohort of students from the regions who did their own research, but also all of this hard work of articulation, collaboration, supporting partners. Having a coordination team, 2 people full-time, in all modesty, helped to pull these things together. And a very dedicated executive committee of, I think, 5 or 6 faculty who provided oversight, supervision, and really, I think it was a very horizontal engagement of our working group, that the faculty were right there in the nitty-gritty with the grad students who were the ones doing all of this articulation and collaboration. And we didn't have, kind of at the end of our project, the students who were finishing up, we continued and helped get synthesis by including them as postdocs. I think that worked very well. And having, in one of our cases, in Upper Madeira, Bolivia, we had a local coordinator that also worked very well. So these are kind of the elements. If we want to do this, this is what we need from our perspective. Okay, so we're now in the process of developing a proposal, and it's actually modular, as we've talked about. So this is kind of the core network of partners in the regions and across regions. So the communications group here is kind of integrating all the regions. Again, the colors are countries. So we have 3 Peruvian partners who are in the communications groups, but we don't have really a Peruvian per se regional group. But in the Upper Madeira, we have, again, we have a mix of grassroots organizations, NGOs, and universities. In Brazil, and again, we also have themes. In Brazil, the focus is on legal action. In Colombia, the focus is on indigenous leadership. So we're in the process of developing with these local groups or thematic group strategies for each subgroup, and then an overarching strategy. So that's why it's a modular approach. It's also adaptive because we can find out which work and invest more in those. And it's meant to be done in partnership. And UF does not require that all the funding that comes through us. For example, if the Brazil group is developing a proposal for their activities, they can get funding, administer funding, and coordinate with us. And we also want to expand this program more broadly in Latin American studies. So we have a Title VI proposal that's being developed. We have a business environment report that's being done. And we can use this as a flagship program to attract major funding and engage with other regions that beyond the Amazon. So that would be our vision. As we do that, we are thinking that, we started off with a very much focus on infrastructure governance, but the broader goal that our partners and that we are trying to achieve, I think, can be better articulated as biocultural conservation and territorial management. And this is very much in line with the consensus of the science panel for the Amazon. It's consistent with the sustainable development goals, etc. So I think it's very evocative of the needs and interests of a broad range of actors, including donors, but mainly our partners. And at a first attempt to have a conceptual framework for what do we mean by biocultural conservation, I'm putting out here 4 pillars. So this is what we should be working on: defense of rights to territory autonomy, prior informed consent, security. So we know our organizations, our partners are working on this, and the legal tools group is specifically focused on prior informed consent. Resource management and land management to protect the forests, rivers, and the economic resource base that underlies what our partners are doing, and it underlines conservation. We also know that human capital and social organization is really important, and that's within organizations and between organizations and their partners, and thinking across scales. And ultimately, we have not worked on a bioeconomy yet, but that's going to be an essential component if you want to achieve long-term territorial management and biocultural conservation, and that's recognized by the Science Panel for the Amazon. And I believe that we have the capacity to move into that field as well. Not that we're not already there, we actually have different people, it just hasn't been incorporated in this project. And all of this needs to be consistent with the life plans and territorial management plans that our partners have and that orient their strategies. Okay. So just to kind of sum up then, we're building on what we've accomplished, which are we know what key strategies and successful cases are for territorial management in the face of infrastructure threats. We have a methodology for us working with these partner organizations, co-generate knowledge and to learn together. And we have this network that's in place that wants to continue working together. Okay. And thinking about, okay, scaling this up, we want to continue what we're doing now and make it more embedded in the regions so that we'll have a life of its own. It doesn't have to forever depend on a project, but it needs continued support to establish itself more fully. Okay, so we need to continue this work in these regions on these topics with these partners. We also believe that we can scale up our impact by having better in a participation by Amazonian universities. So we want a new cohort of students here, and they should be from the Amazon, ideally, Amazon region, from our partners. We would engage with them as postdocs as well, but also a network of participatory action research of the in-country students and professors. And we've had engagement so far of professors, but we don't really have a cohort of students yet. So that's a natural expansion for the next phase. We've worked with somewhat more locally oriented grassroots organizations like the Binational Committee, but we can reach out then to and we have some engagement, and the communications team has been a way that we've been interacting with broader regional networks such as COIAB, UNITAS, IDESEP. And now we can also think about expanding to other regions from where where the Center for Latin American Studies is already engaging with different actors. And Joel in the Gran Chaco is a very good example. Brian working in Southern Africa, because what we've done is not like a whole new direction. It's consolidation of a longstanding approach. And there are many others who are doing this kind of approach. So we consolidate it in a larger project, we could include those other regions. And then I believe that kind of a limitation to a certain point of what we've done so far is that we've very much focused on a bottom-up territorial management strategy being implemented by these grassroots organizations and partners who work with them. But larger scale policy, investment, market strategies, we haven't incorporated in our program now, and it could be a need, it could be an opportunity to reach out to other organizations who work on these topics. So yeah, this is, I think, my last slide. Oh, and I want to also just point this out. Okay, sorry. Just reviewing then the network that we have here, which is 27 partner organizations in 3 different regions and across regions on the topic of communications. Just to say exactly what next steps are and also how others can engage. If you haven't been in the GEA project yet, then you can visit our website to start with, and you can also, anyone who wants to be on the mailing list for our newsletter is a way that we're constantly engaging with partners. But we are working on a fundraising concept, both at the umbrella project level for the whole thing, as well as within the thematic groups like communications or the regional groups like Bolivia, Colombia, and Brazil. So we're working on those fundraising concepts in collaboration with our partners. And I'm going to do a course in the spring, and I invite any of you to participate. It's going to be a very unique course. I think the number is 6938. It's called Conservation and Development Strategies for Biodiversity Conservation in the Amazon. And we're really going to look at the results of the GEA project, the products, and we're going to continue discussing them to extract with the partners. And if you don't want to talk with these partners, but you can engage with other partners that you have prior engagement with, that's also okay. But the idea is to continue our dialogue with these partners and extract the essence of their perspective on this broader concept of biocultural conservation, territorial management, bioeconomy, rights, and so on, and try and help to articulate key messages and to structure those messages in easily communicable packages. And we're also going to have a virtual conference February 22nd to 24th, where we can hear from partners about their perspective on these topics. I just want to comment that we just had, like, going back and listening again to the Zoom meetings that we've had is really rich. And take an hour and a half to look at the conference we just had with ANPAS, with partners at ANPAS, for example, and then extracting, like Neil Celio saying exactly what I was trying to articulate as biocultural conservation is, or Donna Lydia explaining how they have used research to support their work, and also engaging with new research topics. Like she pointed out at that event that we need to have more research about the impacts of dams on urban populations, which is not something that we worked on before, but that's kind of the co-generation of knowledge, is her insight that we need to, and the Binational Committee does include urban populations. So we may not have thought of that at first, but listening again to her and kind of extracting key lessons from that is something that we can do in a course and bring that to this conference and use that to build our proposals on. So those are the very concrete next steps, and that's where we are. If any of the GEA collaborators want to comment, please do so, or we're also open to any questions or other comments, suggestions, recommendations.